Thank you, Sandy. That was lovely. Thank you, band. Where's y'all? That's our question for the day. Where is God? And of course, I want to begin with a story. A little boy named Johnny. Wasn't me. Because he went to parochial school. And at the end of the day, one school day, the principal of the school, a priest, called him into his office. Now, Johnny was prone to getting himself in a little trouble sometimes at school, so he was sure that this had something to do with something he'd done. But the priest wanted to really talk to him about his faith. So he sat him down, and he looked into Johnny's eyes, and he said, "Johnny, where is God?" Johnny went, "Oh, no. That's what you want." "No, Johnny, tell me, where is God?" "Johnny, where is God?" Johnny jumped up and ran out of the office. He ran through the streets to his house. He went into his house, into his bedroom, slammed the door, and climbed under his bed. And his buddy Frankie saw him running away from the school. So Frankie went right over to Johnny's house, went inside, went into his bedroom, found him under the bed, and said, "Johnny, what are you doing?" Johnny said, "God is missing, and they think I did it." Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, where I want to go with this is I want to look at the science of mind and compare it to the traditions of the Judeo-Christian faith. From most observers, casual observers, they would say, "Well, they're not that different. They're practically the same thing." That has not been my experience. But even Ernest Holmes, early in his career, believed that people could study the science of mind, get a sense of what it was that he was bringing from all of his work of bringing this ancient wisdom together, and still be a very effective part of their faith community, no matter what it was. That was his thought. He let go of that after a while. In his elder years, in fact, it's in the writings that Barbara has been doing on Monday nights in the Holmes papers. In his last couple of years of teaching, he came to view that the traditions of fundamental Christianity is insane. He did. Now, I'm not going to go that far, but he said that just didn't work. So he understood that what we were onto here, ancient as it was, had a compelling place in the human experience, the human evolution of our spiritual understanding. And I believe that he's right. But I want to look first at what it is that these good folks down the street of Christian Church believe. I can speak to this because I grew up in the Baptist church. And I have a general understanding. Now, one thing that you have probably heard around here from time to time is that we do not believe that God is up on a cloud. Neither do the people down at the Christian church. That's kind of insulting. They don't. They believe that God is right next to you. They believe that you should invite God, they call God in that case Lord, into your heart. That's their fundamental idea, and that if you don't, you may face some pretty rough things beyond this lifetime. But you'll see there that the basic premise of that understanding is that God is one thing and you are something else. And that's what it's based on. Yet, over the years, it has been done in such a compelling, loving, just heart-opening way. I'll give you two examples. The first one is called Footprints. Anybody heard that word, Footprints? Yeah. Okay. Footprints, this lovely conversation with Lord, saying that there were two sets of footprints in the sand going down the beach is the image that's given. And then suddenly, when things got tough, there was only one set of footprints. And the question is, Lord, why did you leave me in that time of trouble? And the answer is, from the Lord, is, no, that's when I carried you. God, isn't that lovely? I mean, doesn't that make you feel good? Another one that I grew up with, I mean, when I was in the 6th grade, I regularly heard a song called In the Garden. Remember that? Yes. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. What a compelling concept. Who wouldn't want a relationship with a deity that would do that? Here's the challenge. If that is your understanding of what God is, then God is something other than you. And if you want to have a relationship with the deity, that's your right. There are plenty of people in the Science of Mind movement that still hold on to that. There's a lot of very popular songs in our movement that have a relationship with a God. It's almost natural as human beings that we would want to know the divine. But when we seek to find the divine, as Ernest Holmes has told us, outside of ourselves, we're left wanting. It's never complete. It's never fully understood. Now, I will also say to you that even with the philosophy that we embrace here, until you can really, really embrace it, until you can really embody it, it's weird. It's just weird because I'm not God. I mean, what ego on planet Earth is just going to accept that God is what I am? Yet that's what we teach. How do you reconcile that? That's just so bold and so brash and so over the top. How do you reconcile that? Now, most people, as you know, because when I point to the Christian church, it doesn't matter which direction I point, right? Because there's one out there in that direction. It is the common way of thinking. And what I have come to understand is that it's the common way of thinking not because it works in the human mind to want to have that relationship with this deity. We want it. It's compelling. It calls to us. Yet when you get right down to it, it leaves us in a place where we're not safe. Because if you don't do it the way it's laid out, you're going to suffer. It's going to go badly for you. You're going to end up eternal damnation is one of the things they call it. You know, and then the argument is, don't you think you ought to just go ahead and believe this just in case? I've been there. You know, I was baptized in the church. I did all the stuff they said do. You know, I prayed to that outside God again and again and again. And I remember there were times where there were tough things going on. And I'm saying, please, God, please let this be okay. And it was what it was, and it turned out the way it was supposed to. And it really wasn't about my searching for this outside God that made the difference. But I got to tell you, when I showed up in that church in Miami in 1984, and I heard what that woman was saying, I said, that's it. That's it. You know, I lived in Australia, where I actually began my spiritual awakening after my life had pretty much gone to crap. Can I say that? My life had gone to crap. And I ran away as far away as I could get. And I found a teacher that showed me that I was okay. And showed me how to use energy and to make my life work. And it was amazing. It was brilliant. But he would not talk about God. If somebody said, what do you think about God? He'd say, I have no idea. That wasn't his interest. But he prepared me to walk into a Science of Mind church in Miami. And I went, that's it. That's the other piece. Because that is something that I required. I have to know something beyond this physicality of life. And there it was. The idea that the divine is present everywhere, always, in its absolute wholeness. Ooh, that means God's right here. Wow. God changes everything. I'm okay. And from that understanding, I've made my life work. From some of the cruddy stuff I was into early on, I have made my life work. Now, do I have it all figured out? No. You heard that from me last week when I talked about, I quit. We all need a moment from time to time where we can just blow off some steam. But the truth remains. The presence and the power that dwells in, through, and as each of us, without exception. And that's the important thing. This idea presented to us by our friends down at the Christian church has that outside idea that does not work for me. You decided what works for you, but it does not work for me. what I know is that if God is omnipresent, whether you can call it God or not, if there's that presence that is absolutely present everywhere, always, in its entirety, so totally present at every point, then it's at the point of me. Then I don't need anything outside of myself to be okay. When things get weird, when things get complicated, when things get hard, I can change that. Because I was there when it got that way. And I will be there when it turns and heads in a different direction. It's absolutely my choice. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but it is. It's my choice. Now, some people move into this teaching and suddenly they think they have to find somebody who's got the mojo to do the treatment work, to get them out of trouble, to fix the things they think are wrong in their lives. God bless them. And I'm not telling any of that rings true for you. I'm not telling you anything. I'm just telling you, reconsider how this works. Because the divine presence that dwells at the point of me dwells at the point of you. It's the same presence in its entirety, totally present at the point of you. I got nothing you don't have. And you've got nothing I don't have. So it's lovely when we go to our practitioners. But 2 nights ago, when the phone rang after Barbara and I had gone to bed, somebody we haven't heard from in almost 10 years called to say somebody who was a member of this center over 17 years ago had just wrecked their car. They'd run their car directly into a tree, and they had spinal injury. And the conversation went on to say this person had just gotten over cancer. Who's driving that life? The same one that was driving the car. Now, they weren't calling and asking for something. Their friend was calling and asking for something. Their friend was afraid, and they wanted to go to somebody who has mojo, so they called Barbara. Well, Barbara is not going to interfere in this person's life. Now, you think, well, but they ran into a tree. They have spinal injury. Shouldn't we treat them? Not if they're not asking for it. Why would we get in their way? Having a spinal injury does not make you a bad person in any way. It is a full spiritual experience to drive your car into a tree. It is. Why interfere with that? Don't we all have the right to have our full spiritual experience no matter what it looks like? So that when we have something that shifts and suddenly something is different, we can find that that came through our ability to know the truth of ourselves. Not because somebody helped us. That's the greatest truth. That God is present in you. There is nothing that you cannot handle. And if you think that there is, then you have flawed thinking around that. Stop it. Give yourself a chance to know the truth and to act in that truth. Let that be what drives you. Now, we have practitioners because we forget. But we don't rely on them with everything. God, we get calls. Treat that I pass the test. Treat that I get the job. Treat that my mother does whatever you want your mother to do. It's like, no. Know who you are. You're the presence of God. That created this entire cosmos is right there as you. How can you not do this? How can you not see this? Well, it's true. Plenty of people can't. So I bring you a different way of looking at this, one we've used as a teaching in this center many times, but I want to go through this. And don't you know, I think I got to turn it on. Let me turn it on. There we go. The 4 kingdoms of consciousness. Wish they'd called it something other than kingdom, but it's called a kingdom. So we're going to go with it. The 4 kingdoms of consciousness. Each one a way of perceiving the universe. See, here's the deal. When we think we're perceiving God, what we're doing is we're defining ourselves. So this is 4 ways that we as human beings define ourselves. That life comes to me, at me. It's like, all this stuff. I'm out of control. This stuff just happens. People are out to get me. I always have problems. This is life happening to us, as though the great power of life is out there. Now, if you look at the model, the Judeo-Christian model, it's got a little of this in it. Because you've got a devil, and the devil is out to get you. So there's something that's coming at you that wants to do something to you, is in that model. But you can't win in this one. This is a lose-lose model. If you think life is coming at you, if you think life is happening to you, then you don't have a very healthy relationship with the divine. So if you feel that's happening in your life, let it go now. It doesn't work. The by me is where some people think we are. Because we treat and conditions change. That must be by me. Well, not really. By me can be exhausting. By me says that everything I have to pay attention to, I have to know about, I have to calculate, I have to have the answer. That's by me. Is there anybody here that always, right off the top of your head, has the answer when everything comes up? That's the correct answer. You don't until you stop and settle down and let it be in you. It's there. It's all there. But there are times when we just don't know. In our conscious mind, we don't know what to do. So that's where we run into trouble with by me. Now, if you go to the next step, go through me, that's feeling better. That's feeling like there's something that's graceful. There's something that's powerful, and it moves through me. It's like not staying home all the time, but when I need it, I've got this great sense of divine presence that moves through me. That's not a bad place to be. Let's not make this wrong. None of these are wrong. They're simply perceptions. But that's not really it either, because still there's some relational thing going on with me and the divine. And the truth is that the science of mind professes that there is no relationship with the divine. There simply is the divine. That's what is. And that I can't call on the divine to work in my life. It can't move through me. It's already there. It's never going to leave. Even when we're acting like it's to me, by me, or through me, it's still there in its entirety, complete and whole in every way. We just forgot. We're just not seeing it. And all of us do that. So I'm not telling on anybody here. This is the way it works. Where home says we go is there. And I just want to be clear that as me and by me are not the same thing. We lift ourselves in consciousness to know that we are the creators of our lives. Through our consciousness, through our thinking, through our actions, every element of our lives, even the things that we may not be able to connect the dots with, still, in the midst of that, is God, whole, complete, perfect in every way. And everything that has ever happened in your life or in my life is that presence. The stuff we like, the stuff we don't like, the stuff we want, the stuff we don't want. It's all God. When we remember to act as the divine, to be the great I am, our lives work. Does that mean it's gone? Maybe, maybe not. I think one of the most powerful stories I ever heard was of the man that had been in a fire and he was disfigured. His skin was burnt and he felt incredibly ugly. When people looked at him, they cringed. And he couldn't stand it anymore. So he went into the church, wherever it was, and he went to the altar and he prayed. He said, God, take this from me. I can't do it anymore. Take me or something, because I can't do this anymore. He was talking to himself. Nothing changed. So he started to work his way out, but he kept turning back and said, please, anything, help me. And on he went. Until he got to the door of the church. He said, okay, I'm stepping out here, and it's going to be different. It's going to be different somehow. It's got to be, because I can't do this anymore. And he stepped out into the light. What happened was that he suddenly knew who he was again. And as soon as he knew who he was, nobody fainted away anymore. Yes, he still had the scars, but nobody fainted away because he knew who he was. He was the presence of the divine. And he lived his life from that point on that way. And his life was rich, and it was full. who's blessed. Just like your life is rich and full and blessed. But you must know the truth of you if this is to be so. Where is God? Wherever you are. Recognize the divine within you and let that light shine, and your life will always work. I love you very much.
Thank you, John. So our welcomers are in the front. If anyone's here for the very first time, if you're here for the first time, raise your hands. Welcome, welcome, welcome. They have a card for you. They have a gift for you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Anybody over here? Yeah, we'll get
Or
there.
you'll point at people.
Over there. Thank you, thank you.
Don't feel
Back in the
intimidated.
back by the door for a safe getaway. There you go. Welcome, welcome. Anybody else here for the very first time? Selena's pointing at someone in the very back. I'm so glad you came. I think this is an amazing place to come. I think that we are not separate people, but we're more vibrational beings, and when we come together with other like-minded people, the same thing happens as do tuning forks, where we all start to vibrate at the same level. So you're coming into a room of people who are joy-filled, happy, clear about who they are, and it lifts us up. And so I think that simply by coming to Center for Spiritual Living today, your life has changed, that there's a higher vibration going on. And I just want to welcome you to a place where miracles are an everyday occurrence, where we get to have what we want, and our lives are filled with joy. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living today. I'm really glad you came. And now I'd like to invite our prosperity acceptors to come forward. Take out what you're going to give. And those of you 10,000 people watching online, I want to invite you to also support this center by going to the Donate Now button and clicking it on and giving to support the work that sends Science of Mind out to so many people. And to those of you who do consistently support, I want to say thank you, whether it's giving something in the baskets today, or whether it's going to the donation station in the social hall, or whether it's being part of our auto giving program, going through PayPal, having your banks send checks, whatever it is, you are a generous group. And I am very proud of our center and the good work that we do together in the world. So thank you for giving so generously to the center this day. What I do is I take the gifts, hold them to my heart, and remember that since Spirit is all that there is, Spirit is the source of all. Spirit is the source of all supply. Money is a point of spirit. Money is a spiritual event. And so as spiritual beings, we open up to all that Spirit is in our lives, and part of that is money. And we know that we each are blessed, we each are full, we each have more than enough to do what is ours to do and more. We come together this day and give our gift to Center for Spiritual Living Asheville, knowing that each one of us comes together to make this center all that it was ever meant to be. It is a place of peace, a beacon of light, a tower of strength, and a fountain of wisdom that touches the lives of all who call it home. And we'll repeat our investment affirmation together aloud. I freely and joyously give from the abundance and fullness of my overflowing wealth, knowing my gift goes with love as it touches and blesses the world. And so it is. baskets is blessed, because whenever we give anything, we go with our gift. There's only one. So we may have put money in the basket, we may have sent love out, we may give someone a hand or a chance. That which we are, Spirit as us, goes forth into the world every time we give. And in my mind's eye, I see it in this room as a golden light pouring forth from each one of us, filling up the room from the floor to the ceiling, all between the walls. This air is rich and blessed with God as us. And as we let Spirit move in our lives, things happen. So right here and right now, each and every one of us is touched. We are blessed and we are healed. And I know that that energy cannot stay locked in a room, so out it goes to surround this world, to touch, to bless, and to heal every being on this planet, and to shoot out into the stars to continue its holy work. I know that that energy is always here and always now, touching every one of us here today, everyone who has ever been here, and everyone yet to come. And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you. We've got kids.